The cafe was quiet that morning, with sunlight streaming softly through the large windows, casting warm patterns on the wooden floor. It was the kind of place where people came to enjoy a cup of coffee, read a book, or quietly chat with friends. The smell of fresh bread and coffee beans filled the air. Behind the counter, a young waitress moved gracefully, her movements calm and steady. She knew the cafe well, every table, every chair, every regular customer who walked in. Her name was never shouted across the room, but her presence was felt. She had a quiet charm that drew people in without them even realizing it. That morning, something unusual happened. The door opened with a soft chime, and in walked a man who immediately captured everyone's attention. He was dressed in a perfectly tailored suit, his watch shining under the sunlight, and there was a kind of confidence in his steps that made people notice. He looked around the cafe with curiosity, as if searching for something special. He approached a small table near the window and sat down. His eyes, sharp and observant, scanned the room. He seemed like someone used to the best things in life, someone who rarely spent time in such ordinary places. The young waitress noticed him right away. She had seen many people come and go, but there was something different about this man. She kept her smile polite as she walked over with a notepad in hand, ready to take his order. He looked up at her and smiled briefly, a polite but faintly amused smile. It was a smile that said he had seen many things, but he was interested in what he found here, even if just for a moment. As she took his order, he glanced toward the corner of the cafe where a piano stood. It wasn't just any piano. It was an old, classic instrument that looked like it had stories to tell. Most people didn't pay much attention to it, thinking it was just decoration. But the man's eyes lingered on it. There was a glimmer of recognition, a hint of interest. He spoke softly, almost to himself, saying how he loved music and how rare it was to find a place where a piano sat quietly, waiting for someone to play it. The waitress paused for a moment, surprised. She hadn't expected anyone to notice the piano. She had grown up with music, had learned to play in secret when no one was watching. The piano had always been a part of her life, a companion in moments of happiness and sadness. She didn't play in public. She worked here to support herself, not to perform. But now, seeing this man looking at the piano with admiration, something stirred inside her. A spark of curiosity mixed with a touch of nervousness. She wondered if he might ask someone to play. The man finished his coffee and looked around the cafe again. He noticed how quiet it was, how everyone seemed to go about their routine, unaware of the potential talent in the room. He leaned back in his chair, thoughtful, and then glanced directly at the waitress. There was a playful challenge in his eyes, as if he was daring someone to surprise him. The waitress felt her heart skip a beat. She quickly reminded herself to focus on her work, to keep the normal routine going. But she couldn't help stealing glances at him as she moved between tables. The cafe had regular customers, some of whom had been coming for years. They chatted quietly among themselves, sipping their drinks, occasionally glancing at the piano. None of them knew the secret the young waitress held. The countless hours she had spent practicing in her tiny apartment, her fingers dancing over the keys, learning pieces that were far beyond beginner level. Her talent was her own, a private world she had never shared with anyone. The man finished his coffee and stood up. He approached the piano, running his fingers lightly over the keys. The sound was soft, just a whisper of notes, but it carried a sense of precision and understanding. He turned to the small crowd of customers and said, almost teasingly, that he was curious if anyone here could play something complex, something truly challenging. The room grew still. Everyone looked around nervously, unsure if anyone would respond. It wasn't a serious challenge, but the way he said it made it feel like a test, a moment of truth. The waitress paused, her hands gripping a tray of drinks. She felt a wave of emotions, fear, excitement, and something she couldn't quite name. Part of her wanted to ignore it to keep her secret safe. But another part, the part that loved music more than anything else, felt a pull she couldn't resist. She set down the tray carefully and approached the piano. The murmurs of the customers grew quieter as they noticed her moving toward the instrument. There was a tension in the air, a feeling that something unexpected was about to happen. She stood in front of the piano, her fingers hovering above the keys. The man watched her, his eyes wide with curiosity and amusement. He probably didn't expect anyone to step forward, certainly not someone like her. A quiet waitress who had been serving coffee and pastries all morning. She took a deep breath, closing her eyes for a brief moment, remembering the countless hours she had spent practicing alone. She could feel the music in her fingers, in her heart. It was time to let it out, even if just for a moment. The first note she played was soft, delicate, almost hesitant. But as she continued, her confidence grew. Her fingers moved with precision and grace, producing a melody that filled the cafe. The customers stopped what they were doing, listening in awe. The man's expression changed from playful curiosity to genuine surprise. He leaned closer, captivated by the unexpected talent before him. The music was not just notes. It was emotion, skill, and passion, all combined into a performance that no one in the cafe had anticipated. The waitress didn't look at anyone. She focused entirely on the piano, letting the music guide her. The melody grew richer, more complex, each note flowing seamlessly into the next. The room seemed to disappear around her. The customers were silent, captivated by the music, caught in a moment they would remember for a long time. Even the man who had set the challenge couldn't take his eyes off her, realizing that the talent in front of him was far beyond what he had imagined. As she played, a sense of freedom washed over her. This was not about the challenge anymore. It was about sharing something she had always kept to herself. She felt alive in a way she hadn't in years. The piano in her hands were one, the music telling a story of dedication, dreams, and quiet strength. The cafe, once a place of routine, had become a stage, a moment of magic created by someone who had always been overlooked. When the last note faded, there was a brief silence, a collective breath held by everyone present. Then, slowly, applause erupted, warm and genuine. The man at the table stood up, clapping with admiration. He walked over and smiled at her, no longer playful, but respectful, recognizing the talent that had just been revealed. The waitress, smiling softly, felt a mix of relief and pride. She had taken a risk, revealed her secret, and it had been met with wonder, not judgment. That morning, a quiet cafe had witnessed something extraordinary. A simple waitress, unnoticed in her daily routine, had conquered the moment with her music. The encounter with the millionaire had sparked something new, a recognition that talent could shine anywhere, even in the most unexpected places. And as she returned to her work, carrying drinks and smiles to the tables, she knew her life had changed, even if just a little, in ways she had never imagined possible. After the applause faded, a quiet hum of conversation returned to the cafe, but the atmosphere had changed completely. The regulars whispered among themselves, still stunned by what they had just witnessed. Some shook their heads, still unable to believe that a simple waitress had such skill. Others smiled with admiration, recognizing the beauty and effort behind every note she had played. The young woman herself returned to the counter, her hands still tingling from the music, a flush of excitement and nervous energy spreading across her face. The millionaire, however, did not return to his table. He remained near the piano, leaning casually against it, watching her with keen interest. There was a look of both amusement and challenge in his eyes. He clearly enjoyed surprising people, but he also enjoyed seeing genuine talent where it was least expected. The waitress kept a polite smile on her face as she poured coffee and served pastries, but her mind was racing. She had never performed in front of an audience like this, and the experience had awakened something deep inside her. He finally spoke, his voice calm but firm, cutting through the gentle chatter in the cafe. He praised her performance, acknowledging the skill, emotion, and control she had displayed. Then he made a surprising proposal. He wanted her to play another piece, something even more difficult, something that would test the full extent of her talent. His tone was playful but unmistakably serious. He was challenging her, and the challenge carried weight. The entire cafe seemed to hold its breath, waiting for her reaction. The waitress paused, her hands hovering briefly above the counter. Doubt crept in. She had never played for anyone outside of private lessons and practice sessions. The idea of performing a challenging piece in front of a crowd was intimidating, and the thought of failing was frightening. Yet, a part of her, the part that lived for music, for the thrill of expression, felt drawn to the challenge. She looked at the man, then at the piano and nodded subtly, accepting the unspoken dare. The customers leaned forward in anticipation, sensing that something extraordinary was about to unfold. The waitress walked back to the piano, her movements calm but purposeful. She took a deep breath, feeling the weight of eyes on her, and then sat down. Her fingers rested lightly on the keys, ready to bring the music to life. This was not just about proving her ability anymore. It was about embracing her passion and showing the world, if only for a few minutes, who she truly was. As she began, the first notes were gentle, almost as if testing the space around her, exploring the acoustics of the room and the emotions of the audience. But soon, her confidence grew. The complex piece demanded precision, speed, and deep feeling, and she delivered it all effortlessly. Her fingers danced over the keys with agility and grace, bringing out melodies that seemed to speak directly to each listener. The café, usually filled with quiet murmurs and clinking cups, transformed into a hall of music. Each note echoed with emotion, carrying stories of struggle, hope, and beauty. The millionaire's expression changed as he listened. He had expected skill, perhaps even technical proficiency, but what he heard went far beyond that. The young woman played with heart and soul, capturing nuances that few could manage even after years of formal training. He leaned back, genuinely impressed, feeling a mix of surprise, admiration, and even a little humility. He had challenged her, perhaps to amuse himself, but she had risen to the occasion in ways he had not anticipated. The audience was equally captivated. Some closed their eyes, allowing the music to wash over them. Others watched in awe, their mouths slightly open, unable to look away. The quiet waitress who had been serving coffee minutes ago had transformed into a masterful musician commanding the room. Every key she struck told a story, conveyed emotion, and left a lasting impression. Even those who didn't know much about music could feel the intensity and skill of her performance. She had the rare ability to make everyone feel connected to the music, regardless of their understanding of classical compositions. Midway through the piece, the challenge escalated. The notes became faster, the rhythm more intricate, demanding the utmost precision and control. The young woman's hands flew over the keys, yet her movements remained elegant and purposeful. She never faltered, never hesitated. The millionaire's smirk disappeared, replaced by a focused gaze, as he recognized the depth of her talent. It was clear that she had dedicated countless hours, unseen by anyone, to master the piano. The performance was not just impressive, it was extraordinary. As the final notes approached, the café fell into complete silence. Everyone leaned forward instinctively, waiting to experience the conclusion. She played with feeling, letting the last chords resonate fully before slowly lifting her hands from the keys. The music faded gently into the air, leaving a profound stillness behind. It was a moment suspended in time, where the ordinary had become magical, and everyone present could feel it. The applause that followed was deafening, heartfelt, and unrestrained. People stood from their seats, clapping, cheering, and even whistling in appreciation. The millionaire rose as well, joining in the ovation. His expression was no longer playful but respectful. He approached her with genuine admiration and extended his hand, acknowledging her skill and courage. The young woman, smiling modestly, felt a rush of emotions, pride, relief, and a sense of accomplishment she had never experienced before. After the performance, the café slowly returned to its usual rhythm, but the energy remained different. Customers continued talking excitedly, replaying the moments in their minds, while the waitress returned to her duties, though she moved with a new sense of confidence. The encounter had changed something inside her. She realized that her talent, long kept private, could shine in ways she had never imagined. The experience sparked a feeling of possibility, a recognition that her passion could lead her to new paths. The millionaire stayed for a while, observing the cafe, watching her interact with customers, and occasionally glancing at the piano. He seemed contemplative, impressed not just by her skill but by her humility and grace. The young woman noticed him but focused on her work, carrying drinks and chatting with regulars as if nothing had changed. Yet she felt different, stronger, more confident, and ready to face opportunities she had never dared to imagine. Later that day, the cafe owner approached her, smiling with pride. He had watched the entire performance and recognized the rare talent in front of him. He hinted at the possibilities that could arise from such skill, suggesting that she might consider performing beyond the cafe. The waitress listened quietly, her mind buzzing with ideas and dreams she had long suppressed. For the first time, she entertained the thought that her passion could become more than just a private joy. It could become a part of her life in a very real and meaningful way. As the day went on, word of the performance began to spread. Regular customers shared the story with friends, strangers discussed it with curiosity, and the cafe seemed to glow with a new energy. The young waitress continued her work, her heart light, her mind filled with excitement. She knew this was only the beginning of something remarkable, a journey that would challenge her, inspire her, and perhaps even change her life forever. And somewhere in the back of her mind, she felt a quiet determination, ready to meet whatever came next with the same courage and grace she had shown at the piano. The morning faded into afternoon, and the cafe remained lively but with a quiet excitement lingering in the air. The young waitress continued her work, but she noticed that something had shifted. Customers looked at her differently, with curiosity and a newfound respect. Whispers traveled across tables. The waitress who could play the piano had astonished everyone that morning. Even the regulars who had always seen her as part of the background now regarded her as someone extraordinary. Yet she kept a calm demeanor, moving gracefully from table to table, pouring coffee, serving pastries, and exchanging smiles. She didn't want to seem boastful, but the warmth she felt from the attention was undeniable. The millionaire remained in the cafe, not leaving despite finishing his coffee hours earlier. He watched from a distance as she worked, observing her interaction with the customers. There was a mix of amusement and admiration in his eyes. He had expected to witness a moment of entertainment, but what he saw now was something far deeper. The waitress was not just skilled at music. She carried herself with patience, kindness, and an ease that made people comfortable. Her presence alone seemed to enrich the cafe, and he found himself more intrigued than he had anticipated. As the afternoon wore on, he walked over to her during a quiet moment. He spoke with genuine curiosity, asking about her experience with music and how long she had been practicing. She hesitated briefly, unsure how much to reveal, but then decided to be honest. She told him that she had learned to play the piano as a child, practicing in secret because her family could not afford lessons, and she had always loved the music more than anything else. She explained that her time at the cafe was necessary for income, but music had been her true companion for years. Her voice was soft but steady, reflecting both humility and pride. The millionaire listened carefully, nodding in understanding. He could sense the depth of her dedication and the sacrifices she had made to follow her passion in her own way. Then, with a spark of playfulness, he asked if she would play for him again, this time without an audience. He wanted to hear her full range, to see the music flow without distraction. The waitress felt a twinge of nervousness. She had played earlier under pressure, but now the idea of performing privately for someone who clearly appreciated music in a serious way was both thrilling and intimidating. She agreed and moved toward the piano with him following. As she sat down, the room seemed to fade away, leaving just her, the piano, and the attentive millionaire. She took a deep breath and let her fingers hover above the keys. The first notes were delicate, exploratory, testing the connection between her hands and the instrument. She felt the familiar comfort of the piano beneath her fingers, the old wooden keys responding to every movement. Slowly, she built the melody, pouring in emotion, technique, and years of quiet practice. Each note seemed to carry a piece of her story, her struggles, her dreams, and her secret joy. The millionaire sat silently, absorbing every sound. There was no judgment, no challenge this time, just a deep appreciation for the music unfolding. He noticed the subtle dynamics in her playing, the shifts in tempo, the expression that made each passage feel alive. He could see her passion, the years of dedication hidden behind her calm exterior. He realized that her talent was not just about technical skill but about feeling, understanding, and expressing the soul of the music. It was a rare combination, and he felt fortunate to witness it. As the piece progressed, it became more complex, demanding both precision and emotion. The waitress's fingers moved swiftly, yet gracefully, navigating the intricate patterns effortlessly. She lost herself in the music, forgetting the café, the customers, and even the presence of the millionaire. The piano was no longer just an instrument. It was a bridge between her inner world and the outside, a way to communicate everything she had held within. The millionaire, usually composed and reserved, leaned forward slightly, captivated by the performance. He could not help but marvel at the depth and maturity in her playing, far beyond what he had expected from someone so young and seemingly ordinary. By the time she reached the crescendo of the piece, the room seemed to vibrate with the energy of her performance. Each note was precise, yet carried a warmth and human touch that made it feel alive. The millionaire could feel the intensity, the passion, and the dedication that had been poured into every hour of practice, every moment spent in quiet solitude with the piano. It was more than music. It was a story, an expression of resilience, talent, and heart. When the final chord resonated and lingered in the air, there was a moment of stillness. The silence was profound, as if the world had paused to honor the music. The waitress lifted her hands slowly, her heart still racing from the experience. The millionaire remained seated for a moment, processing what he had just witnessed. Then he stood, clapping softly at first, then with growing enthusiasm. His applause was genuine and filled with admiration. He approached her, smiling, and spoke words of praise, acknowledging not only her skill but her courage and heart. She felt a warm sense of validation, a recognition that went far beyond any casual compliment. As they talked, she realized that the encounter was more than just a challenge or a performance. It was an opportunity to see herself through someone else's eyes, to understand that her passion had power, that her dedication mattered, and that her talent could touch others in profound ways. She had always played for herself, for solace and joy, but now she saw that music could also be a bridge, connecting her to people who appreciated and respected her abilities. The afternoon continued with small moments of quiet conversation and shared stories. The millionaire asked her about the pieces she loved most, her inspirations, and the challenges she had faced. She spoke openly, revealing her journey without reservation. He listened intently, offering encouragement and even suggesting possibilities she had never considered, opportunities to perform, learn, and grow in ways that had seemed out of reach. She felt a mixture of excitement and apprehension, realizing that her life could change, that music could take her beyond the café, beyond the small world she had known. Meanwhile, the customers who had stayed watched from a distance, their curiosity piqued by the private performance. Some had come back just to witness more of her talent, while others had shared the story with friends and family. The café had become more than a place to eat or drink. It had become a stage where something extraordinary had occurred, and everyone wanted to be part of that moment, even as observers. By evening, as the café quieted down, the waitress reflected on the day. She realized that she had taken a step beyond her comfort zone, that she had faced both fear and opportunity, and that she had succeeded in expressing herself fully. The experience left her with a newfound confidence and a sense of possibility she had not felt before. She knew that her journey with music was only beginning, and that the encounter with the millionaire had opened doors she had never imagined. The man left the café later that evening, but not without leaving a lasting impression. He had witnessed a hidden talent, a quiet strength, and a remarkable gift. More than that, he had sparked something in her, a belief that she could pursue her passion boldly and without hesitation. The waitress returned to her tasks, pouring coffee and attending to customers. But inside, she carried a sense of hope, inspiration, and determination. The day had been extraordinary, a turning point that reminded her that talent, courage, and heart could shine even in the most ordinary of places. And as she prepared for the next day, she felt ready for whatever opportunities and challenges awaited, knowing that her music could guide her forward, one note at a time. The next day, the cafe was alive with a quiet sense of anticipation. Word had spread quickly about the young waitress who had stunned everyone with her piano skills. People came in not just for coffee or pastries, but to witness the girl who had conquered such a difficult challenge. The atmosphere was different now. There was an electric hum of curiosity, a sense that something remarkable had touched this ordinary place. The waitress moved through the cafe, serving drinks and chatting politely, but her mind was elsewhere. She felt the lingering excitement from the previous day and the growing realization that her life might be changing. She had spent the morning preparing herself mentally, rehearsing quietly in the back room whenever she could. Her fingers tingled with the memory of the keys, and her heart raced with both nervousness and anticipation. She knew that today could be another moment that would test her courage and skill. The piano sat in the corner, waiting silently, as if aware that it would again be the center of attention. The waitress took a deep breath, feeling the familiar comfort of the instrument, and reminded herself that her music had always been her strength, her voice in a world that often overlooked her. The millionaire arrived again, and his presence immediately drew attention. People whispered excitedly, curious why he had returned. He had a calm, confident demeanor, but there was a spark of expectation in his eyes. He approached the waitress directly, his tone warm but firm, and suggested that she play for a wider audience today, not just the regulars in the cafe. He hinted at inviting a few influential people who appreciated music, people who could open doors for her if she proved her talent once more. The waitress felt a mix of fear and excitement. The idea of performing for strangers was daunting, but she also recognized the opportunity that lay before her. She agreed, knowing that she could not turn back from this moment. She moved toward the piano, her heart steadying with each step. Customers and visitors in the cafe watched her with keen interest, some even rising from their seats to get a better view. There was a tangible sense of anticipation, a feeling that something extraordinary was about to happen. She sat down at the piano and let her fingers hover over the keys, taking a deep breath before starting. The room fell silent, everyone waiting to witness the music that would soon fill the air. As her fingers pressed the first notes, a wave of sound spread across the cafe. The piece was challenging, more intricate than anything she had played before in public. Her fingers moved with precision and grace, dancing over the keys, bringing the music to life. The notes carried emotion, depth, and control, each one resonating with the listeners. People were captivated, some closing their eyes to immerse themselves fully in the experience, others watching in awe. The young waitress was no longer just serving coffee. She had become the heart of the cafe, a performer whose music commanded attention and respect. The millionaire observed her closely, impressed not only by her technical skill but by the emotion and presence she conveyed. He could see the dedication behind every note, the countless hours of practice, the passion that had driven her to master such a complex instrument. His earlier amusement had transformed into genuine admiration. He had expected talent, perhaps even proficiency, but what he saw now was artistry and soul. She was playing not just with her hands but with her heart, and it was evident to everyone in the room. As the piece progressed, it became more intense, demanding faster movements, greater control, and deep emotional expression. Her fingers moved effortlessly, yet with a natural elegance that made the performance seem almost effortless. The audience was mesmerized. Even those who had little knowledge of music could feel the power and beauty of what she was playing. Every note seemed to tell a story, carrying layers of meaning and feeling that transcended words. The cafe, usually filled with casual chatter, was transformed into a sanctuary of music and emotion. Midway through the performance, the complexity increased further. The young waitress faced difficult sequences that required both agility and focus. Her hands flew over the keys, each movement precise and confident. She had faced similar challenges in private, but performing in front of an audience added pressure. Yet she did not falter. She drew on her experience, her love for music, and her deep understanding of the piano. Each note was deliberate, each pause meaningful. The music flowed naturally, telling a story that held everyone in its spell. The audience remained silent, fully immersed in the performance. Even the regular customers, who had seen her play before, were stunned by the depth and maturity of her skill. The millionaire, usually composed and self-assured, found himself leaning forward, captivated by the unfolding artistry. He realized that she had not only met his challenge but had surpassed it, transforming a simple café into a place of wonder and inspiration. Her music had the power to move people, to create a shared experience of awe and appreciation. As she neared the climax of the piece, her confidence grew. The notes became more dramatic, the rhythm more intense, and the melodies intertwined with emotion and precision. The entire café felt the energy of her performance. Every listener, from casual patrons to curious visitors, was drawn into the music, carried along by her skill and passion. She played with heart and soul, letting the music express what words could not. It was a moment of pure artistry, a demonstration of talent honed through dedication, practice, and love for the art. When the final chords rang out, the café remained silent for a brief, suspended moment. Then the applause began, gentle at first, then growing into cheers and clapping from everyone present. The young waitress lifted her hands from the piano, her chest heaving slightly from the intensity of the performance. The applause was genuine and heartfelt, a recognition of the extraordinary talent and courage she had displayed. The millionaire stood as well, joining in the ovation, his admiration clear. He approached her, praising her skill, her composure, and the emotion she had brought to the music. The young woman smiled softly, feeling a sense of pride and accomplishment. She had faced fear, embraced challenge, and shared her passion with the world. The experience had transformed her, filling her with confidence and a new sense of possibility. The applause and admiration were rewarding, but more importantly, she felt validated in her love for music and her dedication to honing her craft. The encounter reminded her that talent, courage, and perseverance could shine brightly even in unexpected places. After the performance, the café returned to its usual rhythm, but the energy lingered. Customers continued to discuss what they had witnessed, their excitement infectious. The young waitress resumed her work, her movements calm and poised, yet her mind was alive with reflection and inspiration. She knew that the encounter with the millionaire had opened a door, presenting opportunities she had never imagined. It was a reminder that taking risks, embracing challenges, and trusting in her abilities could lead to extraordinary moments. The millionaire stayed a little longer, observing the café and her interaction with customers. He seemed thoughtful, impressed not only by her talent, but by her humility, grace, and dedication. He could see the potential she carried, the promise of a future shaped by her passion and skill. The young waitress, focused on her work, felt a quiet sense of determination. She knew that her journey with music was only beginning, that there were challenges and opportunities ahead that would test her further, and she was ready to embrace them. As evening approached, the café emptied slowly, leaving a few lingering patrons. The young waitress cleaned up, reflecting on the day's events. She realized that the experience had changed her perspective, showing her that her music could reach beyond the confines of the café, touch hearts, and create connections she had never imagined. The encounter with the millionaire had sparked a belief in herself, a recognition that her talent could lead to new horizons, and that her dedication and passion were worthy of recognition. By the time the doors closed, she felt a sense of calm fulfillment. The piano, once a silent companion, had become a bridge to the world, a way to share her inner voice with others. The performance had not only demonstrated her skill, but had revealed her courage, resilience, and love for music. She knew that her life was on the brink of transformation, that opportunities were beginning to emerge, and that she had the strength and talent to embrace them. And as she turned off the lights and prepared to leave, she carried with her a renewed sense of purpose, ready to continue her journey, one note at a time. The days that followed were filled with a mixture of excitement and nerves for the young waitress. The story of her performances had spread beyond the café, reaching people who were curious to see the girl who had stunned everyone with her piano skills. She continued her work at the café, serving drinks and pastries, but now there was a new energy in the air. Regulars looked at her with admiration, and new visitors came specifically to witness her talent. The young woman moved through her tasks with grace, but inside, she felt a constant hum of anticipation, as if every moment held the possibility of something extraordinary. The millionaire returned once more, this time with a small group of individuals who were known in the local music and arts community. He introduced them to the young waitress, explaining how she had conquered a difficult challenge with remarkable skill and emotion. The group was eager to hear her play, and the young woman felt a mix of excitement and pressure. She knew that this audience would be different from the casual patrons of the café. These people understood music deeply, and the stakes felt higher. Yet, she also felt a surge of determination. She had come this far, and she was ready to show her true ability. As she approached the piano, she took a deep breath, feeling the familiar comfort of the instrument under her fingers. She recalled every moment of practice, every note she had learned in private, and every melody she had played when no one was watching. This was her moment to let all of that experience shine. She sat down and allowed her fingers to hover above the keys, listening to the soft murmur of the group around her. Then, with a quiet resolve, she began to play. The notes flowed gracefully, filling the café with a richness of sound that captured the attention of everyone present. The piece she had chosen was challenging, requiring both precision and emotion. Her fingers danced over the keys, moving with agility and elegance, conveying the depth of feeling she had practiced in private. The group listened intently, captivated by the beauty and skill of her performance. Each chord, each transition, was executed with care and intention, reflecting not only her technical ability, but her emotional connection to the music. The millionaire observed her closely, a look of genuine admiration on his face. He could see that her talent went beyond mere skill. It was a combination of dedication, passion, and heart. He had witnessed many performances before, but there was something unique about this young woman. She played with authenticity, with a sense of purpose that made the music resonate deeply with anyone who listened. The way she controlled the dynamics, the tempo, and the emotion was remarkable, especially considering her young age and the fact that she had remained largely hidden from public view until now. As the performance progressed, the complexity of the piece increased. Fast passages and intricate sequences demanded focus and precision, and she delivered each one flawlessly. Her movements were fluid and confident, as if her hands were guided by intuition and experience combined. The group was visibly impressed, exchanging glances and murmuring words of admiration. Even those who were experts in music could recognize the rare talent before them. The young waitress had not only met their expectations but exceeded them, transforming the ordinary café into a place of wonder and inspiration. Midway through the piece, she faced a particularly difficult section, one that required perfect timing and delicate control. Her fingers moved swiftly over the keys, maintaining clarity and expression throughout. She felt a surge of focus and energy, knowing that this was the moment where her dedication and practice would truly be tested. The music flowed seamlessly, each note building upon the last, creating a tapestry of sound that captivated everyone in the room. The audience could feel the effort, the skill, and the emotion that had been poured into every hour of practice. The climax of the piece approached, and the intensity of the music increased. The young waitress played with passion and precision, her fingers moving effortlessly across the keys. The melodies intertwined, creating layers of sound that filled the café. Every note was deliberate, every pause meaningful, and every chord resonated with the audience. The atmosphere was charged with emotion, as if the room itself was holding its breath, waiting for the final moments of the performance. When she reached the final notes, she allowed them to linger, letting the sound resonate fully before slowly lifting her hands from the piano. The room remained silent for a brief moment, as if everyone was savoring the final echoes of the music. Then, gradually, applause began, starting softly and building into a thunderous expression of admiration and appreciation. The group of music enthusiasts stood, clapping and cheering, their faces filled with awe and respect. The millionaire joined in, his expression proud and genuinely impressed. He approached her, praising her talent, dedication, and courage. She felt a rush of pride and joy, a recognition of the effort and passion she had put into her music. After the performance, the young waitress sat quietly for a moment, letting the experience sink in. She realized that she had not only played for an audience, but had truly shared a part of herself through her music. The applause and admiration were gratifying, but what mattered most was the connection she had created through her performance. She had taken a risk, embraced the challenge, and succeeded in expressing her passion and skill in a way that touched others deeply. The millionaire spoke to her about opportunities that could arise from her talent. He mentioned potential performances, collaborations, and ways to continue developing her skill in professional settings. The young woman listened carefully, her mind racing with possibilities. She felt a mixture of excitement and nervousness, understanding that her life could be opening up in ways she had never imagined. The encounter was a turning point, a moment that could shape her future and provide new avenues for growth and expression. As the day went on, the cafe continued to buzz with excitement. Customers discussed the performance, sharing their impressions and marveling at the talent they had witnessed. The young waitress returned to her duties, but her perspective had changed. She moved with a sense of confidence and purpose, knowing that her music had the power to inspire and connect with people. She felt a renewed sense of determination to pursue her passion, to continue improving, and to embrace the opportunities that lay ahead. By evening, as the cafe quieted down, she reflected on the events of the day. She realized that her journey with music was just beginning, and that the encounter with the millionaire and his group had opened doors she had never imagined. She had faced challenges, shared her talent, and received recognition, and she knew that her dedication and love for music would continue to guide her. The piano, once a private companion, had become a bridge to the world, allowing her to express herself and connect with others in profound ways. As she closed the cafe for the night, she felt a sense of fulfillment and anticipation. She knew that her life was changing, that opportunities were emerging, and that she had the strength and skill to embrace them. The young waitress had proven to herself and to others that talent, courage, and passion could shine even in unexpected places. And as she prepared for the days ahead, she felt ready to continue her journey, one note at a time, with confidence, dedication, and heart. The days after the performance were filled with new energy for the young waitress. News of her piano skill had spread beyond the cafe, and people began to take notice. Some visitors came from nearby towns, eager to hear the story and witness her talent for themselves. The atmosphere of the cafe had changed. It was no longer just a place for coffee and pastries. It had become a small stage, a place where something extraordinary had happened and could happen again. The waitress moved gracefully through her tasks, aware of the attention but focused on providing the best service she could. She carried herself with a quiet confidence, knowing that her abilities had opened doors she had never imagined. The millionaire stayed in touch, offering encouragement and connections that could further her musical journey. He introduced her to teachers, mentors, and professionals in the music industry who could guide her development. The young waitress felt both excitement and nervousness. These opportunities were new and intimidating, but she realized that her talent and passion had earned her this chance. She reflected on the journey that had brought her here. Years of practice in secret, the quiet moments spent at the piano, and the courage it took to step forward when challenged. It was a combination of dedication and opportunity that had led her to this point. One afternoon, the millionaire returned, this time with a friend who managed small concert venues. He suggested that she perform at a local recital, a small event but one that would allow her to showcase her skill to a larger audience. The young woman felt a flutter of nerves. Performing at the cafe was one thing where she knew the space and the people, Performing at a new venue in front of strangers was another. But she also felt excitement. She understood that growth often required stepping into the unknown, and she was ready to take that step. She began to practice in earnest, spending every free moment at the piano. Each day, she refined her technique, explored new pieces, and worked on expressing emotion through her playing. Her dedication was unwavering, fueled by a combination of passion and the recognition she had received. The café became her practice space when empty, and she played with a focus that made the air itself seem charged with anticipation. She could feel her confidence growing, the nervousness transforming into readiness. The piano was no longer just an instrument. It was a bridge to the life she had always dreamed of. When the day of the recital arrived, she felt a mixture of excitement and fear. She stood backstage, taking deep breaths and recalling every note, every lesson, and every hour of practice that had brought her here. The audience awaited, unaware of the journey she had taken to reach this point. The millionaire and his associates sat in the front row, offering smiles and encouragement. She felt a quiet resolve. This was her moment to shine, to share her passion, and to embrace the opportunities that had come her way. As she walked onto the stage and sat at the grand piano, the lights dimmed slightly, and the hush of the audience enveloped her. She placed her fingers on the keys, feeling the familiar warmth and resistance of the instrument. With a deep breath, she began to play. The first notes were soft and delicate, setting the tone for the piece. The music flowed naturally, each note carefully placed, each phrase full of expression. She could feel the connection with the audience, the way the music carried her emotions directly to them. The recital hall, filled with strangers, became alive with the sound of her playing. The piece grew in complexity, requiring precision, speed, and control. Her fingers moved gracefully, effortlessly navigating the intricate passages. Every note, every chord, conveyed emotion, telling a story that words could not capture. The audience was captivated, leaning forward, their attention fully on her performance. The young woman lost herself in the music, forgetting the room, the people, and even herself. She was entirely immersed in the expression of her passion and talent. The millionaire watched with pride and admiration, recognizing the culmination of her hard work and dedication. Midway through the performance, she encountered a particularly challenging section. Her hands flew over the keys, each movement precise, each note deliberate. The pressure was intense, but she remained calm, drawing on the countless hours of practice and her deep understanding of the music. Her expression was focused yet serene, reflecting the balance of technical skill and emotional expression. The audience felt the intensity, the dedication, and the artistry, understanding that they were witnessing something rare and extraordinary. The climax of the piece arrived, and she played with full confidence, her hands moving with agility and grace. The music soared, filling the recital hall with emotion and energy. Every chord resonated with depth and clarity, and the audience was spellbound. The young woman's performance was not just a display of skill but an experience, a story told through music, and a testament to her perseverance and passion. The audience responded with awe, their eyes wide, their faces reflecting the impact of what they had just heard. When the final notes rang out and lingered in the silence, there was a moment of profound stillness. The recital hall remained quiet, as if everyone was absorbing the power of the music. Then, gradually, applause erupted, growing louder and more enthusiastic. People stood, clapping, cheering, and expressing their admiration for the young woman who had captured their hearts with her music. The millionaire joined in, clapping proudly, recognizing not only her talent but her courage and dedication. She felt a deep sense of fulfillment, knowing that her journey had reached a new level, that her music had touched others, and that her dreams were becoming reality. After the recital, she was approached by teachers, mentors, and other musicians who praised her skill and offered guidance for future opportunities. The young woman listened attentively, feeling both gratitude and excitement. She realized that her journey was just beginning, that there were endless possibilities for growth, learning, and sharing her passion. She had taken risks, embraced challenges, and shown the world her true abilities. The experience had transformed her, providing not only recognition but a sense of purpose and direction. Back at the cafe, life continued, but the young waitress had changed. She approached her work with renewed energy and confidence, aware of the path that lay ahead. Customers noticed the difference in her demeanor, her calm assurance, and the quiet joy she carried. She continued to play the piano whenever possible, each note a reminder of her journey, her passion, and the opportunities she had embraced. The instrument had become more than a companion. It was a bridge to her future, a source of expression, and a testament to her talent and dedication. The millionaire remained a mentor and supporter, offering guidance and connections to help her navigate the world of music. The young woman felt grateful for his belief in her, recognizing the importance of encouragement, opportunity, and mentorship in reaching her potential. She also knew that her own dedication and passion had brought her to this point, that her perseverance and love for music had made the difference. She had discovered not only her skill but her ability to inspire, connect, and grow through her art. In the months that followed, the young waitress continued to perform, gaining recognition and building a reputation as a talented and dedicated musician. She balanced her work at the cafe with opportunities to share her music more widely, each performance building her confidence and skill. She remained humble, grounded, and focused on her passion, understanding that true success came from dedication, persistence, and authenticity. Her journey was far from over, but she faced it with courage, hope, and determination, ready to embrace the future, one note at a time. Her story became an inspiration for others, showing that talent, passion, and perseverance could shine even in unexpected places. The young waitress who had once played in secret at the cafe had conquered challenges, shared her gift, and opened doors to a brighter future. Her music had the power to touch hearts, create connections, and transform lives. And as she continued to play, teach, and grow, she knew that the journey would always be guided by the love for the piano, the courage to face challenges, and the dedication to follow her dreams wherever they might lead.